Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me on the panel, How to Live Well in LA. And I think we're going to, as people roll in, we're going to invite my co-panelists out. So if they're backstage and ready to go, we're going to have a really, really interesting discussion with 4 individuals who are really changing the face of LA in terms of the health and wellness landscape. So I'd like to invite, there's Kelly Meyer. Come on over. As people come on in, I'm just going to introduce them. We've got Kelly Meyer here, who's the co-founder of the American Heart Association Teaching Gardens. And she is going to be talking to us about these teaching gardens that she's established all over Los Angeles. Sitting to her left is Gauri-Brienda Ramnath, who is the Marketing and Community Relations Specialist for Whole Foods, a familiar brand to many of us. To her left, we've got Melisa Nicola, who is not only the chef and co-owner of Nick's Beverly Hills restaurant, but she is here specifically to talk about her program called Culinary Arts Kids Eat, which she's the president of. And all the way, last but not least, we've got Shaun Tomson, who's a world champion surfer and who's just written the book, The Code, and we're going to hear all about what The Code is. It just came out a month or so ago. So welcome to these 4 wonderful people who are all based here in Los Angeles. And each of whom is playing a very, very interesting role in this landscape. And as I talked with all of them in preparation for this panel, it became clear to me that their view of health is so integrated in terms of the multiple disciplines that we're seeing here at Health Interactive today, from what we eat to how we think of our environment, to how we see the natural environment. Even Shaun, with his role in surfing, talks a lot about the role of the ocean and the oceanfront and the beach, down to the retail environments that are part of our everyday lifestyle landscape. So I think we're going to have a really interesting chat. And why don't I kick it off with you, Kelly, to tell us a bit about the origins and the current work of the Teaching Gardens.
Okay, I co-founded the American Heart Association Teaching Gardens with a principal at our local elementary school. So we started with one garden, one dream, one vision, that we wanted to bring health to children across, I guess, the globe. Let's not limit ourselves. And we moved into a vulnerable community in Inglewood, and it was perceived and received as a really wonderful opportunity for kids to connect to Whole Foods. And we met a few people along the way, and eventually the American Heart Association adopted our program, and we're now across the country in 250 schools. We work with partners in every area, every kind of community, from New York to Hawaii, and we look for those partners to build a coalition of health within communities everywhere, and then we connect them. So I feel really lucky that I've had this great partnership with the American Heart Association, because it's brought me and introduced me to a lot of people across the country. And all I know is that it's been my good fortune and my blessing to see these children grow whole food from the ground up and invest in that process so they can understand what that really means. And coming from environmental background, I think in the end that will also help them understand more about the bigger issues and the larger issues that we're facing as well.
We're going to come back and learn a little bit more about how the Teaching Gardens actually work and what that looks like. I'm going to go actually to Melisa next. We're going to skip and come back to you, Gauri, because the work Melisa is doing through her program with culinary arts in schools relates a lot to the work that you're doing. And you've actually crossed paths in a couple of different locations.
Oh my God,
so tell us a bit.
I'll just tell you from one that knows from seeing this, what they've done for our school in the South Central area has been amazing. Kids now, they touch the ground, they touch the earth, they really see how things grow, and they have a classroom now outside. This is a whole different experience for them. We're taking kids that have never really had greenery around them and giving them greenery and seeing what that does to their life. It transforms them. So what they've gifted our school in such a huge way, I can't even tell you. It's been the first step in so many different wonderful adventures we've all had. So we thank you so much from the bottom of our heart for what they've done is incredible.
It's what you guys do every day.
And tell us just a bit more about the culinary arts program
So
and how that works.
what we do at Santee, we're a South Central high school, and there's a commercial kitchen. We're a culinary arts program there. We're called CAKE, Culinary Arts Kids Eat, and we basically are an arm to the culinary arts program. The kids go in and they learn everything there is to know about being involved in a kitchen. They're following the CIA, the Culinary Institute of America, their curriculum. So it's like a boot camp of sorts. They go in, we teach them how to be safe and healthy in the kitchen. We give them the serve safe and the food handlers test. We move them through. Once they've got that, they start learning how to cook. We learn how to set up mise en place. And you're going to ask, some of our students are here today. They know what mise en place is. We teach them mise en place in the kitchen, which takes mise en place into your life, which means everything in its place. They learn how to do that. They learn how to cut, and they learn how to fabricate chicken. They learn how to make sauces. They learn how to grow their own food and create a product with their own food. They learn how to eat healthy and why that's important. You know, this is, again, kids that are from an area that there's food deserts, basically, where they live. They don't have access to healthy food. So we're trying to bring that to their lives and educate them and stimulate them. And they go home and teach their parents. This is what I learned today in school. Let's try it. And so that's a little bit about our program. And we are so thankful. I'm here with Chef Liz, who is a Culinary Institute of America graduate. And we work together with the kids every day in the classroom and in the kitchen together, teaching these kids life skills and life.
Thank you so much, Melissa. And Gauri, continuing on the note of whole food specifically, I'd love to hear a little bit about your perspective. Gauri currently works as the marketing and community relations specialist at Whole Foods, but before that has had a very illustrious career in the health and wellness landscape. So tell us a bit about your background and then your current role at Whole Foods.
So, my gosh, it's quite broad. I have degrees in biomechanics and health education and business, so I kind of know both worlds in that sense. Yeah. And I worked in the health and fitness world for almost 7 years, running sports facilities and branding sports companies. Moved into the medical industry, branding clinics, so I've seen a very broad scope in terms of preventative care. And then, of course, transitioning from medical clinics into Whole Foods, community relations and marketing. But it actually is all one when we really look at it. It's mission driven. Ultimately, we're looking for preventative measures, but looking at from both sides, working with patients that have gone the extreme where, for whatever reasons, whether it be addiction related, it be alcoholism or drugs or just overeating. I mean, everything from the clinical standpoint to then this preventative side, which is what I see now currently with our shoppers. And the consumers being interested in eating to prevent issues and consuming likewise. And that comes down to everything from shopping organic to people wanting to buy non-GMO items to our premium body care. And of course, people forget that your skin is an organ. Right? Actually, it's living, it's breathing, and the same way as you are what you eat. So seeing that from the broad perspective, and then of course from the business side, looking at where our trends are. Mm-hmm. And our trends, we have the millennials, which is our younger generation of shoppers that are very socially conscious. So they're interested in buying local, they're interested in buying sustainable. They want to make sure that the goat cheese is coming from that small farm where they maybe know the owner or they could go visit. And that the goats are being treated well, right? She's laughing because that's one of our shoppers. And then of course we have we have a lot of moms that are coming and concerned about their children's needs and the allergies what kids are facing nowadays with needing gluten-free and nut-free, so on and so forth.
I think that's really interesting to think about your demographic broken down from your perspective. We'll come back to you in a moment. I would like to introduce Shaun, who brings a very interesting angle to this, but is working specifically, starting with youth, but now extending his audience as well with his really unique message. Tell us a bit about your background and the code.
Well, many years ago, in another life, I was a professional surfer. That was a long, long time ago. But since then, I've been a businessman, and I'm very involved in both environmental and philanthropic causes. I'm on the board of directors at Boys and Girls Club in Santa Barbara, and I'm on the board of Surfrider Foundation. And I released a book about a month ago called The Code. The Code is a book aimed at teenagers and young adults and it empowers them to make positive decisions. And the connection between how to live well in LA is this connection of decisions, this connection and connectivity between mind, body, and spirit. Because every decision we make is a decision ultimately for life or death. Now, 35,000 young people between the ages of 14 and 24 die every year from accidental death, from preventable causes. So all these lives could be saved if kids made positive decisions. And it's like so many of us in the audience today, you make a positive decision that comes from your mind, and ultimately it's a decision that's going to affect your health, whether you're going to drink Coca-Cola or Pepsi, you're going to eat crap like McDonald's, you're going to eat sugared cereals. All these fundamental decisions don't just affect you, but they affect your children, they affect your husband or wife, they affect many people around you. So my concept with the book, I speak to thousands and thousands of young people around the country and around the world. It's to empower them to make positive decisions through a very simple exercise, and that's to write their own code. It's a very simple exercise. It's a free exercise. Kids write 12 lines. Every line begins with I will, and it's a fusion of their values and how they see themselves in the future. It's a code that we're trying to get introduced into the educational system around the world, and it's just to encourage positive decisions, because at a young age, one bad decision can lead in death. And I know this because I lost my 15-and-a-half-year-old son to a bad decision. So there's this connectivity between mind, between body, and spirit. And all of these, when they're aligned, I think that you live well.
What really struck me about Shaun's code, and we talked about this a little bit, that he talks about them being promises to yourself as opposed to language like goals or things I have to achieve, which I thought was really interesting, or your New Year's resolution, which feels a little bit more external, and I think that connects to the mindfulness that's inherent in the whole philosophy. I want to come back to you, Kelly, because one of the things that the American Heart Association and your program and others have done is really connect the dots between the garden, not just as a source of food, but as a complete full circle of thinking of life as very connected. And I think both you and Melisa have worked on aspects of this program where kids are taught to think of the garden as a source of food, but then prepare the food and then sell the food and then even have a business plan associated. Tell us a bit about that kind of holistic approach to this around the garden itself.
Well, yeah, I think we work very hard at making those connections on a linear, sort of physical, real-world level, but I want to take it to the next level just in response to what you're saying. The garden also, I think, is an allegory or a metaphor for everything that's possible for these kids. And if you see a tiny seed go into nutrient-dense soil and collect, energy, calories from the sun and water it and you nurture it and you love that seed and you make wise decisions, you will see it grow. And I don't think there's anything in their world out there like that in these communities that can speak to their heart in that way. And so there's a lot of connections, linear connections with the cooking and the business plans and the understanding that food could in fact be an occupation aside from just the road to a healthy life, no matter what you choose, and your vitality, eating whole foods and growing your own food and cooking your own food can lead to a vital human being and hopefully vital decision making. It represents, to me, just personally, because I go there, it means a lot more than just, growing food or an activity. And then also within the schools, there's science, math, there's art, there's team building, all those things that I think our kids are missing as great. We're all here because of a technology, which is obviously, gives us so much and can free our time and give us time, but we also have to remember that you have to go out together in a community and work together. You can't just, always be on your screen getting your information. You have to get it from the person next to you.
It doesn't get much more basic than actually working with soil.
Yeah.
Getting your hands dirty.
Yeah, and that's, getting your hands dirty is,
Definitely.
So,
that's real saying.
And just to follow up with that, with Melisa, I'm interested in what are the stories you've seen of actually these young people's lives being transformed? I mean, tell us a little bit about what it's like when you come into these communities and probably look at you like, what are you talking about?
Okay,
Can you
It's
hold your
very,
mic real
very
close?
heavy. It's very heavy what both Chef Liz and I have experienced watching these kids. When we see them, they go into the garden, what you just spoke about, the kids all get together, they have fun, they talk to one another, and I know this is part technology and health that what we're talking about today, but the kids don't have technology in front of them. They're talking to one another, they're sharing their ideas, they're enjoying sharing life together. It brings them out of like this whole kind of darkness they've been in, and they open up and they see life entirely differently, and they have control now over something, which I think also is something we need to address. Sometimes in their life they don't have much control, but you get them in the garden, they control that, and that's their baby. They're watching it grow, and then they take it up into the kitchen and they create a product out of it. I have students that are here with us from the summer that were with Harvest with Heart. That was part of the American Heart Association. This is the most amazing experience you could ever have for some students. They were given an opportunity to grow their own food, to take a product from the garden and write a business plan on it, then take it out and actually sell it. They made a PSA on health. They learned yoga. They learned Zumba, Aqua Zumba. We taught them culinary arts. This was all in one day. They did this all for the summer. So
You guys should stand up.
this
Yeah.
whole,
Yeah.
I
Stand up.
mean,
Stand up and say
what
hello.
these kids did was amazing. Amazing. Truly.
And they can go on and study this further and get jobs.
Well, that's
in this
part of
field.
what we teach. We teach them, really, you literally could almost go on to your first year of culinary arts in college. From what the class that we teach you, it will take you there. But some of these students, they might not want that for a career, but they might want to use it as a job to pay their way through college. So they're learning life skills, certainly. But more importantly, they're learning how to live healthy, how to cook healthy, and how to be healthy and balancing their mind, body, and soul. That's what it's really about. That's what we're looking to do. Within our class, we teach them about GMOs, okay? We teach them about, what local farming and organic farming, and they learn how tough it is. And they experience it and they recognize, my God, there takes a lot to be an organic farmer. And they put their sazon onto it when they cook then with it, because they realize how difficult it is to grow your own food and then create a wonderful, healthy product.
And one of the things, that since both of you work in schools, I have a young son and we live in Los Feliz, and my neighbor was telling me that he won't let his kids eat the lunch that is served in the public school. And this is in a progressive, liberal neighborhood that's full of educated, lovely people. And I learned a bit about why that is the case. And I said, why are public schools feeding children so poorly? And I thought it was very interesting. If you want to quickly shed some light.
LAUSD, I know alone, they serve over 500,000 meals a day, and probably 3/4 of them end up in the trash. And if you go to any school, you just go right after lunch and take a look at it if you don't believe me. So
My favorite is the burgers, the mystery meat with a happy face that's stamped into it.
yeah.
They
yeah.
actually have happy
Right.
faces stamped
Right.
into the mystery
Oh, no, it's so
meat.
frightening.
And it
So
comes down
frightening.
to the fact that the kitchens aren't equipped.
Right.
The kitchens aren't equipped to cook fresh food on
Right.
site. It's
So
as
that's
simple
what
as that.
we're looking at now. We're trying to transform the way the kids eat at school. Right now, they're basically the food comes in, it's maybe frozen or it's microwaved and it's given out. And you think about it, you've got 2,000
Microwaved
kids.
in plastic.
Yeah, right. So bad, so bad. And then, so 2,000 kids, you've got to get that food out in a half an hour. What we're trying to do now with the schools is transform them, which means all of them have to have new equipment if you're going to go into scratch cooking. So that takes some time. We're underway doing that. We are working with LAUSD, and we're trying to make sure this happens as fast as it can. What we did last year at our school is we had our students create healthy salads as a project, and then go and visit the region as a paper. And then the next older students prepared those salads for the school, and our kids gave them out at lunchtime.
Yeah.
And everyone said to us, hey, kids, they hate salad. They're not going to eat the salad. 4 seconds later, the salads are gone.
Yeah.
4 seconds.
Yeah.
And also what's nice about our program is that when there are pilot programs available, and I know that John Daisy's working hard on this issue and invested in it, but if your school has a garden, if it has a culinary program, if it has an awareness of any kind about health, you will be the first in line to get that pilot program because they know it will be more successful because you will have children, parents, teachers that are invested in that goal.
And that's the whole concept of the community coming together, and not just being a point solution, but being kind of multiple groups working together with different. And I want to come to Shaun in a minute, but I want to ask Gauri, for your perspective, so I think when I walk into Whole Foods, I think this is like a bastion of everything that's right about how we're eating and living in America today. But clearly there's work to be done in parts of even Los Angeles where we're not getting that message out. How do you see the message of Whole Foods spreading across the region and in areas that need it more?
So something that you may not know is that we do have an organization called Whole Kids Foundation within Whole Foods, and it's actually in conjunction with Michelle Obama's Let's Move program, and it is creating salad bars in schools and creating nutrition program and outreach, educational outreach. One thing that Whole Foods does focus on is about serving and supporting the local and global community. So that means is finding areas where there is a community influence, so the stores are actually picked based on the need. We do, speaking from the Santa Monica perspective, we've just got this natural following over here of people that are just so interested in the whole farmers market and agriculture and organics and sustainability that here, of course, it's easier to message that out. The executives are working on finding ways to bridge through the school programs like what you both are doing, that we may not be able to necessarily, the marketers, because our plates are so full in a community locally, to be able to go out and draw some of this interest by way of the teachers. And that we have a lot of teacher shopping here in Santa Monica, like here on the west side, the Venice location, and figuring out ways that we can support their internal programs. So I have one teacher that I'm working with that wanted to plant tomatoes. We did it last year actually locally at St. Monica's, and then just seeing her connection database and using her as a gateway and an ambassador to further. In terms of the real estate and plot, I can't speak too much on that for obvious reasons, but they are very much interested in bringing it out and gentrifying it, bringing it to at-risk youth. It's a very big focus for us.
And Shaun, from your perspective, you probably, when your kids are making these promises to themselves, they probably span multiple aspects of their lives. I'm curious how you see health and wellness fitting into this program of code. How does it manifest in these kids? Are they thinking explicitly about health when they make these goals, or is that kind of a happy byproduct of being just more mindful?
It's really interesting. Since I published my book, I've got thousands and thousands of lines of code from thousands of kids. They just send me these promises that they've made to themselves. They're just wonderful. They're very inspiring, enlightening, and it's really interesting to see how kids see themselves and see the world. So I did an event a couple of days ago in San Diego, and a young boy came up to me with his father, a very troubled young lad I could see. And he sent me his code. It was interesting. The very last line of the 12 lines that he sent me was, "I will live another day. I will live another day." So these decisions that young people are faced with when they're teenagers and maybe in their early 20s are fundamentally life and death decisions. They are. And when I got that, I went, wow, it is so inspiring that he said that he's going to live another day. And when I talk to these kids, one of the things that I really encourage them to do is get out in nature. And specifically, go down to the beach. Wherever you live in Los Angeles, you're 20 minutes away from the beach. It's very close. And just that act of walking along a beach. For me, I love surfing still. I'm very passionate about my surfing. When I paddle out on my board and you have that whole horizon open up, it's not only good for me physically because I'm paddling and I'm expending energy, but that whole horizon is opening up, a horizon of possibility. And all the troubles and problems of the world are behind one. So if someone's not a surfer, but if you just walk along that beach, that beach from Santa Monica Pier all the way heading north, and that horizon opens up and you've got your feet in that wet sand, that little barrier that's between the ocean and the real land, the sand, and you walk barefoot, I think you get the physical feeling of walking in soft sand, plus you have the feeling of that horizon opening up. So I encourage kids to think and also to get off their bums and get out in nature.
Thank you so much for that, Shaun. And that's a message not just for kids, but for all of us, I think. And so we'd love to take some feedback from the audience and some questions, but let's just go down the panel to you, Melissa, with your tip for the audience in terms of how do we live well in LA? What do you do to live well in LA, and what might folks do?
You know, I don't know if I would say it's only for LA, but for me, to make my life healthy, I'm looking for balance, and I'm looking to balance my mind, body, and soul. And if I say thank you every day, I say thank you. That's all I do. I just say thank you for everything you've given me, and I look at life differently as a result of saying thank you. That works for me, and I can take that anywhere.
The gratitude?
Yeah, it's a gratitude thing. I'm thanking you. I'm thanking you for having me here. I'm thanking you for everything, and I'm excited to be alive, and that's it. And I leave it at that.
Thank you for that. Gauri, your personal, how you live well in LA, and some advice for folks in the room?
So they say you teach that which you need the most. So my biggest thing is being present in the moment. I tend to be somebody, and I hope all of you can relate to this one. I'm either ahead, so I'm way in the future, and I'm worrying myself into knots about something that doesn't even exist, or I'm way in the past, and then that past is becoming my future. And learning to just be here now, that this is the moment that we all have. We're not guaranteed stepping out of here, we'll ever be here again together, and that life is so fragile. And that this moment, if we're present to it by way of breathing, meditation, yoga, these integrated practices, really give us a higher quality of life. Because if I'm connected to you when I'm speaking to you, this is all I have, right? It's what we have. So if we can enrich that moment, it's going to lead you to the next moment, which is going to create the future for you. And it's going to decrease your blood pressure and your anxiety levels and your insomnia and your irritable bowel syndrome and all this kind of stuff. So I'm seeing that is the challenge, and that is ultimately the focus, right? Yeah. And inhaling and exhaling to get there.
Yeah. Thank you, Gauri. And what about you, Kelly? Some thoughts on living well in LA?
Well, I mean, on a personal level, you get up early, you do your yoga, you do your surfing.
5 a.m., by the way.
Find your tribe of girlfriends, you work out, you connect with your family. But that's a very West Side answer, and I'm fully aware. I take full responsibility for that answer. But I'm just lucky and fortunate enough to be able, because those are all inside, you work on your insides and then you work on your outside. It's a yin and yang thing. So for me to be able to go down and be in the garden with Randy, one of our veterans that works with our program, and see the work that Lizbeth and you guys are all doing in the garden, that opportunity to give back is, that makes all that other beautiful stuff worthwhile. And I think it's, like you said, it's the balance of, keeping that yin and yang going and working, the inside job, the outside job, the inside job, the outside job, and just giving back and realizing, like you said, get up in the morning grateful, one step, two step, grateful, and be there now. Yeah. I'm with you all.
Yeah. Indu, I'd like to add one more thing, just very important, is serve. This is a big one. Find something you can do for someone else. You don't have to work on a nonprofit, you don't have the time, or you don't, it's okay, but just serve someone. Get up and serve. And in your deepest, heaviest moment, when it's rough, or you're having a depressed, sad day, think outside yourself, and I'm almost certain it's going to pull you up from your bootstraps, and you're going to get back center again. So serving is also another really great way to stay present and to stay happy.
Well, with that, thank you so much to my lovely panelists. And I think we have just a couple of minutes for questions from the audience, and I think there's a microphone right there for anybody who wants to ask these lovely folks a question. Anyone? Or share a thought? And I think it is interesting that this is happening, for me personally, in Los Angeles. I moved here from San Francisco 5 years ago, and the stereotype of, San Francisco is sort of this paragon of healthy living, and Los Angeles has the smog and you never walk. For me personally, it's wonderful to see how this community here is really opening up and embracing this wave of health and wellness, and potentially combating some of the stereotypes about Los Angeles in the larger world.
We talked about the other day,
you have a question?
you walking, I think, is an important thing. I think getting out and walking in LA is like a huge deal. You meet people, you know what I mean? All of a sudden, wow, I'm interacting.
Take the bus.
Yeah.
That's an
New York.
experience
If
in
I'm
LA.
from New York, and the first year that I
Yeah.
moved here, I would
Yeah.
walk down the street and people
Right.
would just look at me. And I'm like, no, I'm employed. I have a job.
You're a New Yorker. Yeah.
So for me, I'm at a point that all this to me fuels my inspiration and what I want to do next with my life. And I was wondering, what was the aha moment for each and every one of you that was like, I want to do something for someone else. I want to dedicate my life to that.
Tell us who you are, by the way, and then the panelists will answer the question.
My name is Angela.
Okay. Thank you, Angela.
I can say for just starting this program, and we just had a discussion about this because I think you guys need to take it to Washington, D.C. Yeah, and get our decision makers healthy, right? Ashley's going to D.C. We're going to join us and get our decision makers healthy because the aha moment for me, I was at the joint session of, when President Obama presented his healthcare debate to the joint session, and that's a rare, historical moment. They usually don't do that unless there's a vote happening or whatever. And so this was 3-4 years ago in his last term, and when the guy stood up and yelled, "You lie!" and the Dems, were all like a mess, and the Republicans were all sitting up straight. It was like I could see it, and I was up above, straight across from Michelle Obama, and you saw that this was going to be, a bloody battle, if you will. But anyway. I had the two healthiest people I know, Gabrielle Reese, who's a volleyball player, and Laird Hamilton, who is a surfer, and they were with me on either side. And by the way, go to their website, Gabby and Laird. They're awesome. They're healthy. And Laird, in sort of his primitive caveman way, leaned over and said, why are all these people who aren't connected to their body, mind, and spirit making decisions about healthcare for us? Ding, ding, there it is. Let's get the hell out of here. And so we did, and I actually started this program with them. They would come to the gardens early on. Gabby would lead exercises. Laird would come and give his inspirational, talks about his life as a surfer. And so that was my aha moment.
That's really interesting.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool, huh? I liked your little caricature with that one.
Exactly how it happened.
So you guys know I worked in this fancy Beverly Hills medical clinic. Anyway, it was cool. It was a great experience. But we counsel a lot of very established high-end people in business, celebrities, athletes, and being able to work with them one-on-one and think about how they always say the illusion is greater than the reality. So sometimes we're striving toward creating this life. I'm one of those people, I was. That I had, it's going to be like this, and I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to become this. And then I had people that I was counseling that had all that, right? It's like you flip a magazine, you see them there, whatever. And they're sharing things with us in the clinic, and we're taking notes, and I'm like, wow, this person's like banking, like $1 million airplanes, jets, all this stuff. And I'm like taking note, and I'm realizing through this process of being in the clinic that they're still plagued. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have contentment, that they can sleep at night, that there's peace. And it just made me, reevaluate and think back to the roots, like how I grew up and the things my grandma taught me and just coming over here to the United States and the whole process, and that it really comes down to those foundational values that you speak of, and that as a child, what were the things you learned, and that if you build from the core out, that you will have that life that you want, and that just because so-and-so over here looks like they've got it all together, it's a lot deeper than you think. So it gave me that aha moment that it's about grassroots, it's about our people. It's not necessarily the value in who they are celebrity-wise or the money they make. It's that we're all worth the same. And we all battle with the same things. We all are plagued by the same syndromes. And being able to serve the people on this level and then be able to serve them up there, it's pretty cool. So that, and ultimately, that's the aha moment.
Thank you.
So my aha came from, I had 4 restaurants in Los Angeles. I still have one currently. And I had been working for about 20-something years in the restaurant industry, and I thought, wow, what else could I do than the day-to-day of running a restaurant, which was kind of grinding. And people were coming to me and saying, there's a health issue out there, 1 out of every 3 people are obese. And I kept thinking about this and going, okay, what should I do about this? I think I need to do something because people just keep telling me this information. So I contacted the Orfalea Foundation in Ojai, and they do school food. They've transformed 200 schools up in Ojai. They connected me with Chef Liz, and the two of us got together, and we decided to create the program that we have at the inner city high school, and really look at it so that we can bring to these students a complete combination of life skills that would keep them and transform them and allow them to find balance. So that's what we inspired to do, and we worked hard on all our pilot programs. And for me, this has been a pivotal moment in my life because I'm seeing lives change every day, and I'm seeing all it takes is get them in the ground, get them watching that dirt, watch that plant grow, and then take it on up and show them how to cook, and there they are. They're in control, and they have a whole different outlook on life. So that's been it for me, and I'm so thankful for being here and for being alive.
Thank you so much. And Shaun, just a closing thought from you on your aha moment.
Yes, it's an interesting question, the young woman that asked that question. I think it's a wonderful question, and I'd never really thought about that one moment, but perhaps it was a moment many years ago, in 1979. I'd recently won the World Surfing Championship. I'd gotten on the wrong side of a group of gangsters in Hawaii. And we used to go over there every year to compete because Hawaii was the Mount Everest, the Olympus for famous surfers all over the world. And that was the conclusion of the World Championship. So these were bad guys. I mean, they were really tough guys. And they told me if I don't leave the island, they'll kill me. I got punched, I got hit, I had guys come at me with a gun, I got hit with a bottle. And I went to a gun store in Wahiwa, at Schofield Barracks in Hawaii, and I bought a 12-gauge shotgun, and I loaded 10 shells into this thing. It was a semi-automatic, pump action. And I traveled around with this gun, and I thought, surfing's my passion. This is what I love. And I'm willing to die for my passion. And I think it taught me that there are those moments in life where you find out what your passion is, and whether you're willing to live or die for that passion, that's really, really what matters to you.